The evening sky was heavy with clouds, and the forest near the village grew darker with every passing minute. The human farmer named Daniel walked slowly with a basket in his hand. He had worked all day in the fields, but something strange pulled him toward the woods. For many days, he had noticed signs that someone was living there. Broken branches, small footprints, and the remains of half-eaten roots. He thought maybe it was just animals, but then one night he heard faint voices, soft and trembling. That night he could not sleep when he entered deeper into the trees. His eyes caught sight of movement behind the thick bushes. A pair of glowing eyes watched him carefully. He stepped closer, and then he froze. It was not an animal, it was an alien. Mother with her little daughter. The mother's face was pale and thin, her clothes torn and dirty. Her daughter looked even worse, weak and shivering, trying to chew on a hard root. They were hiding under a broken wooden shelter made from fallen branches. Daniel's heart pounded. He had heard many stories about aliens. The villagers said they were dangerous, thieves, or even monsters. But what he saw in front of him was not a monster. It was a starving mother and a frightened child. The mother quickly pulled her daughter closer. Her sharp eyes glared at Daniel. Her body shook, but she stood like a shield in front of the child. She hissed in a strange accent, "Stay away, human." Daniel raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon, only a basket filled with bread and vegetables. The little girl stared at the basket with wide, hungry eyes. But the mother pressed her head down against her chest, refusing to let her move. Daniel placed the basket on the ground. He did not speak. He only stepped back slowly. The smell of fresh bread filled the cold air. The child's stomach growled so loudly that even the mother could not ignore it. "Why?" the mother whispered in fear. "Why would a human feed us? What does he want?" Her voice trembled as she watched the man leave the basket behind and slowly disappear into the shadows of the forest. The little girl tugged her mother's arm. "Mama, can we eat it, please? I am so hungry." The mother shook her head. It might be a trick, it might be poisoned, but her voice lacked strength. Her daughter's thin face and hollow eyes broke her heart, finally. She reached out with shaking hands and pulled the bread from the basket. The child bit into it with tears in her eyes. Meanwhile, Daniel walked home under the heavy clouds. His mind was full of questions. Why were they here? Why had no one else noticed? Should he tell the villagers? But deep inside, he knew one thing. Clearly, he could not let them starve. The next day, Daniel returned to the same place. This time, he came quietly. He found the basket empty, a sign that they had eaten everything. He smiled faintly and placed more food this time, adding a flask of clean water. From the shadows, the alien mother watched him. Her eyes were sharp with suspicion. Her heart told her not to trust. But her daughter's joy was impossible to hide. When she saw the man's tall figure moving away, she whispered, "Mama, he is kind. He saved us." The mother hugged her tightly. "No, little one, do not trust him. Humans are dangerous. They always want something." But her own voice betrayed a tiny crack of doubt. For 3 nights, the same thing happened. Every evening, Daniel left food. Bread, fruit, sometimes even a blanket. And every evening, he walked away without asking for thanks. The villagers soon began to whisper. They noticed Daniel carrying extra food from the market. They asked him why, but he only shrugged and said nothing. In the village tavern, one man laughed and said, "Maybe Daniel feeds the foxes," but another narrowed his eyes, or maybe something worse. Back in the forest, the little alien girl began to wait for Daniel every day. She would hide behind the bushes, peeking out with hopeful eyes. When she saw him coming, her face lit up with a small smile. She no longer feared him. Her heart trusted what her stomach had already learned, that this human meant safety. But the mother still carried fear in her eyes. Every night she whispered warnings to her daughter. "Do not smile at him. Do not call him. he is only feeding us for a reason. One day he will take it back." The daughter shook her head. "No, Mama, he is different." The mother closed her eyes, remembering the husband she had lost, the war that had burned her home, the betrayal that had forced her to flee. She tightened her arms around her child. "If he is different, then the universe has made a mistake. Humans do not give without a price." Yet even as she said those words, she glanced at the empty basket. With trembling lips for the first time in years, her daughter had gone to sleep with a full belly, and deep inside, though she tried to bury it, a tiny spark of hope was born. Asterisk. The sun rose slowly the next morning, painting the sky with a pale orange light. Daniel walked through his fields, but his mind was not on the crops. His thoughts kept returning to the mother and her daughter hiding in the woods. Their faces haunted him, one filled with fear, the other with innocence and hunger. By afternoon, Daniel had gathered food again. This time he added a small pouch of berries and some fresh milk. His hand shook as he poured the milk into a flask. He wondered if they would accept it, or if they would throw it away in fear. He walked quietly into the forest, his boots pressed against fallen leaves, making soft crunching sounds as he reached the broken shelter. He placed the basket down carefully. The little girl's head peeked from behind a tree. Her eyes brightened when she saw him. Daniel gave her a small smile. He did not speak. He only nodded once and turned to leave. But before he vanished into the trees, he heard a small giggle, a sound so pure that it froze him in his tracks. He looked back and saw the little girl quickly hiding behind her mother's cloak. "Oh yeah." The alien mother scolded her daughter in whispers, her eyes still sharp and filled with mistrust. Yet Daniel noticed her hand was already reaching for the flask of milk. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something but swallowed the words instead. Day after day, Daniel returned. Sometimes in the morning, sometimes late in the evening. He never stayed long. He would place food, water, or warm blankets and leave. The pattern became like a silent promise. The little girl began to grow stronger. Her cheeks slowly filled out, her steps less shaky. She started leaving small things near the basket: a flower, a shiny stone, a piece of wood shaped like a heart. Daniel found these gifts each time and kept them quietly in his pocket, never throwing them away. At night, Daniel sat by his fire. Looking at the little treasures, he whispered to himself, "She trusts me," but deep inside, he feared what the mother still thought of him. The villagers, however, grew more curious. They saw Daniel buying extra food from the market. His neighbor asked, "Why do you need so much bread for a man?" Living alone, Daniel only smiled faintly. "I work hard, I eat more." But suspicion spread like smoke. One evening, Daniel overheard men at the tavern. "There's something strange about him," one said. "He disappears every night into the woods. Maybe he hides something there." Another spat on the ground. Or someone. Their voices carried anger, fear, and ignorance back in the forest. The alien mother sat awake long after her daughter had fallen asleep. She watched the shadows where Daniel usually appeared. Her heart was torn. Every time she saw her child eat with joy, she wanted to thank him. But every time she remembered the past, her throat closed with fear. Her people had trusted once before. They had opened their doors to humans, and in return, they had been betrayed, hunted, and forced to scatter. Could this man truly be different? Or was he simply waiting for the right moment to take advantage? The little girl, however, no longer hid her feelings. She would wave shyly when Daniel arrived. Sometimes she even whispered, "Thank you." Though her words were broken and heavy with accent, Daniel would simply nod, respecting her mother's silence. One afternoon, as Daniel placed down a loaf of bread, the child ran forward before her mother could stop her. She grabbed his hand with her tiny fingers. Her eyes shone as she whispered, "Uncle." Daniel froze. His heart ached. He wanted to kneel and speak to her. to tell her she was safe, but the mother rushed forward, pulling the child back sharply. Her eyes burned with anger and fear. "Do not touch him," she hissed. "Do not trust him." Daniel did not argue. He only lowered his gaze and stepped back. Leaving the food behind, his chest felt heavy as he walked away. Behind him, the little girl cried softly. That night, the mother held her daughter tightly. "You must not trust so easily. He is human. They always want something. They never give without a price." But the girl shook her head stubbornly. "No. Mama, he is kind. He feeds us. He will not hurt us." The mother closed her eyes, her heart torn in two. She wanted to believe her daughter, but her scars from the past screamed otherwise. Days turned into weeks. Daniel kept coming, never missing a single day, even when the rain fell hard, even when the winds roared. He appeared with food, his boots sank in the mud, his cloak heavy with water. Yet he still brought the basket. The villagers whispered more and more. Some began following him, watching where he went. Daniel noticed shadows at his back, but said nothing. He knew if they found out about the aliens, danger would follow, and so the visits continued in silence, a secret bond between three souls: the man who gave, the child who trusted, and the mother who doubted. Every night, as the alien mother lay awake, she asked herself the same question: why does he keep coming back? And though she wanted to believe it was kindness, her heart whispered in fear. Kindness does not last. It always has a cost. The nights grew colder as the season changed. The trees stood like dark skeletons, their branches rattling in the wind. Daniel still came every day with food, but he noticed the mother's eyes following him more sharply. The little girl would smile and wave, but the mother's face carried only fear and suspicion. One evening, Daniel arrived later than usual. The moon had risen high. Its pale light guided him through the forest. As he reached the shelter, he froze. Stones were scattered on the ground, and the fragile roof of branches was broken. The little girl sat in her mother's arms, crying softly. The mother's arm bled from a cut. Daniel's chest tightened. "What happened?" he whispered. But the mother raised her hand like a warning blade. Her voice was bitter and heavy. "Your people," she spat. "They found us. They threw stones, they screamed monsters. They will not stop until we are dead." The little girl hid her face in her mother's torn cloak. Daniel stepped closer, but the mother's eyes burned. "Do not come nearer," she warned. Her voice shook with both rage and despair. "I told you, we cannot trust humans. They destroyed my home. They killed my mate. Do you want us gone too?" Her words struck Daniel like knives. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but guilt filled his heart. He knew the villagers well. Their fear made them cruel. And though he had never hurt the aliens, he carried the same human face as those who had. He set the basket of food down slowly, his voice low and steady. "I will not harm you, I swear it." But the mother only shook her head, clutching her daughter tighter. That night, as the wind howled through the forest, the mother sat awake. Her daughter slept in her arms. But her eyes were wide and restless. Memories stabbed her heart. She saw her husband again, strong and kind, dying in the fire of human weapons. She remembered her village turning to ash. She remembered her people running, scattered, hunted, like animals. And now here was another human bringing food every day, acting gentle. But could it be real? Or was it another trick? Her chest ached with fear. She whispered to herself, "If he keeps coming, he will bring danger to us. The others will follow him here. We must leave before it is too late." The next morning, Daniel returned. He found the shelter empty. Panic gripped him. He searched the nearby trees until he spotted them, mother and daughter, walking weakly through the forest, carrying what little they had. "Wait," Daniel called. His voice echoed through the trees. The little girl turned with hope. But the mother pulled her quickly forward. "Do not look back," she said firmly. "We cannot stay near him. It is too dangerous." Daniel ran after them, but he stopped when the mother raised a trembling hand. "Stop," she demanded. Her eyes glistened with tears. "You are kind, but kindness cannot protect us. Kindness cannot stop hatred. Leave us before they kill us and you." Daniel stood frozen, his chest heavy with helplessness. He wanted to argue, but the pain in her voice silenced him. Slowly, he lowered his head. "If you go, you will starve," he said softly. "If you stay, I will protect you." The mother's lips trembled. Her eyes darted between her daughter's thin face and the human steady gaze. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to rest, but every scar in her heart screamed that trust was death. The little girl tugged her mother's cloak. "Mama, please," she whispered. "He helps us. He brings food. I like him." Her small voice cracked with tears. The mother closed her eyes, her heart breaking. Daniel finally placed the basket gently on the ground. He did not move closer. His voice was calm, almost pleading. "I will come again tomorrow. If you are gone, I will still search for you. But if you are here, I will bring more food, no matter what others say." With those words, he turned and walked away. His figure faded into the shadows of the forest. The mother stood silently, trembling. Her daughter clutched the basket, her eyes full of hope. That night, the mother wept quietly. She had not cried since her mate died, but now tears ran freely. She wept because she was tired of running, tired of fear, tired of hunger. She wept because her daughter smiled only when the human appeared. She wept because she did not know how much longer she could keep saying no. When morning came, her daughter shook her awake. "Mama, look," she whispered. Outside the broken shelter lay another basket, filled with bread, water, and a blanket, warm enough to cover them both. The mother pressed her hand against her mouth. Her eyes burned with fresh tears. He had come again, just as he promised. She whispered under her breath, "Why, human? Why will you not leave us alone?" But inside her chest, hidden beneath fear and pain, a small seed of doubt began to grow, not doubt in him, but doubt in her own walls. The days passed slowly, and the forest began to change with the season. The leaves turned yellow and red, falling softly onto the damp ground. Daniel still came every day with food, and though the mother never spoke to him, her silence slowly softened the little girl. However, no longer hid behind her mother. She would wait near the trees when Daniel arrived, her small eyes glowing with joy. Sometimes she would wave both hands at him, giggling. Daniel always smiled back, though he kept a respectful distance. One evening, Daniel brought something new. Not just food, but a small wooden toy carved with his own hands. It was a little bird with wings that flapped when you pressed a button. He left it on the basket and stepped away. The little girl picked it up with wide eyes. Her laughter rang through the forest like music. The mother watched from the shadows, her arms crossed, her face tight with fear. But when she saw her daughter's smile, her heart cracked. That night the girl slept holding the toy, whispering softly, "Uncle gave me this." The mother lay awake, listening, torn between suspicion and gratitude. Daniel noticed the child was growing stronger. She walked with more energy, her cheeks no longer hollow. Her voice carried more life. Sometimes she even tried to speak human words. Her favorite was "thank you," which she said every time she saw him. But the mother remained cautious. Every time Daniel approached, she kept her hand close to her daughter's shoulder, as if ready to pull her back. Her eyes still searched for the trap she believed would come. One morning, Daniel found the girl waiting for him with a gift. It was a crown of leaves and flowers she had made with her small hands. She ran to him, placing it carefully in his basket before her mother could stop her. Daniel bent slightly, giving her a soft smile. "Thank you," little one?" He whispered. The girl laughed, her voice like bells. The mother pulled her back quickly, scolding in her own tongue. Yet her eyes lingered on Daniel's face. She saw no greed there, no hunger for power, only a quiet kindness. It frightened her more than cruelty ever had. In the village, however, Daniel's actions did not go unnoticed. People spoke behind his back. "He hides something in the forest," they said. "No man buys so much food for himself," one man muttered. "Maybe he feeds demons." Their suspicion grew heavier each day. One evening, Daniel heard two men whispering at the tavern. "We should follow him. If he is hiding something, the council will want to know." Daniel's heart clenched. He knew danger was getting closer. He had to be careful. Meanwhile, in the forest, the bond between him and the little girl deepened. She began calling him uncle without fear. She even sang a song he taught her. Clapping her hands in rhythm, Daniel laughed softly. Joining her for a moment, the forest felt alive with joy instead of sorrow. The mother watched silently, her lips pressed tight. Tears threatened her eyes. She wanted to pull her daughter away, but she could not. The sound of laughter was something she had not heard since her husband's death. It filled her chest with warmth and pain all at once. That night, after her daughter fell asleep, the mother sat alone by the dim light of the moon. She whispered to herself, "Why does he keep coming back? Why does he give when he takes nothing? What kind of human is he?" Her voice shook as if afraid of the answer. The next day, Daniel arrived with not just food, but books, small children's books with simple pictures. He sat on the ground at a distance and opened one, pointing at the drawings. The little girl's eyes lit up. She copied his words clumsily, laughing at her mistakes. The mother stood behind, arms crossed, but her gaze softened. She remembered when her husband once taught their child to read in their own language. That memory brought tears, but also a strange comfort for the first time. She did not stop her daughter from joining Daniel. As the days stretched on, the forest no longer felt like a place of hiding, but like a place of meeting. The girl trusted Daniel completely, and the mother, though still afraid, began to lower her guard. She no longer shouted when he came closer. She no longer pulled her daughter away. She only watched, silently judging, silently hoping she was wrong about him. But the villagers grew restless. They followed Daniel one evening. Staying far behind, Daniel noticed the crunch of extra footsteps. His stomach twisted. He turned sharply and walked another path. Pretending to head home, the men gave up. But Daniel knew it was only a matter of time before they discovered the truth. That night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his small home. He whispered, "If they find them, they will hurt them. I must protect them." His fists clenched with determination. In the forest, the mother held her daughter close. Her mind battled itself. One side screamed not to trust. The other whispered that maybe this human was different. The little girl, safe in her arms, smiled in her sleep, mumbling the word, "Uncle." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "If he betrays us, I will never forgive myself." But deep inside, she prayed he never would, and so the bond deepened, unspoken yet undeniable, a fragile thread of trust weaving between fear and hope, a bond that would soon be tested by the world outside. The skies darkened with heavy clouds, and the sound of thunder rolled across the land. Daniel tightened his cloak as he carried another basket toward the forest. The wind howled, branches cracked, and rain poured down like silver sheets. When he reached the shelter, his heart dropped. The fragile roof of branches was gone, washed away by the storm. The ground was soaked, water rushing through the mud in the middle of it. The alien mother and her little daughter clung to each other, trembling and soaked to the bone. "Come with me," Daniel shouted over the storm. His voice was firm but desperate. The mother shook her head, her arms wrapped tightly around her child. "No," she cried. "We cannot trust you. We cannot enter your world." Another blast of thunder shook the trees. The little girl coughed, her lips turning pale from the cold. Daniel's chest burned with urgency. He stepped closer, raising his arms. "If you stay here, she will die." His voice cracked, filled with raw truth. The mother looked into her daughter's shivering face. Her heart broke before she could resist. Daniel bent down and lifted the girl gently into his arms. She was light, far too light. He turned to the mother. "Come, now, for a moment." The mother stood frozen. Her fear battled with her love. But when her daughter whispered weakly, "Mama," she followed. Together they ran through the storm. The rain soaking their skin. Daniel's house stood at the edge of his fields. A small wooden home with warm firelight glowing inside. He pushed the door open, carrying the girl inside. The mother stumbled in after them, her eyes wide with fear and distrust. The warmth of the fire filled the room. Daniel wrapped the child in blankets, rubbing her small hands to bring back life. The mother knelt beside her, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. She watched as her daughter's breathing steadied. Daniel brought warm broth to them, placing it carefully near the fire. "Eat," he said softly. "You are safe here." The mother hesitated, her hands trembling. But the smell of the broth was too much. Her daughter sipped first, then she followed. Each spoonful eased the cold and fear, though her eyes never left Daniel's face. That night, they slept in Daniel's home. The little girl curled up in the blankets, her small toy bird beside her. The mother sat awake near her, her eyes sharp. She whispered to herself, "We cannot stay. We must leave when morning comes." But morning brought something else. As Daniel stepped outside to gather wood, a group of villagers waited, their faces dark with anger. "What are you hiding, Daniel?" one man demanded. "We saw footprints. We know something is in your house." Daniel stood tall, his jaw tight. "Leave me be," he said firmly, but the men pushed closer. "If you protect monsters, you are no better than them," one spat. The words cut like knives. Inside, the mother heard the voices. Her body froze with terror. She grabbed her daughter's hand, ready to flee out the back, but the child clung to her toy bird. Whispering, "Uncle will protect us," Daniel's voice rose outside. "They are not monsters," he shouted. "They are a mother and child, starving and alone." The villagers erupted in rage. "You fool," one growled. "If you side with them, you turn against your own kind." Daniel's fists clenched, his heart pounded. He looked them in the eye and said, "Then so be it. I will not abandon them." His voice was steady, but inside he trembled. He knew this choice would cost him. The men spat on the ground, muttering threats. Finally, they turned and left, but not without warning. "Next time, Daniel, the council will hear of this." When he returned inside, the mother stared at him with wide, wet eyes. Her voice shook. "Why? Why risk yourself for us? Why stand against your own people?" Daniel knelt by the fire, looking at her and the little girl. His voice was quiet but firm. "Because no one deserves to starve. Because no one deserves to be hunted for being different." The mother's heart twisted. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust. But fear still chained her. "You will suffer because of us," she whispered. "They will not forgive you." Daniel shook his head. "Let them hate me. I can endure that, but I cannot endure seeing you suffer." His words carried a weight that pierced her walls. That night, the mother lay awake, watching her daughter sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. Daniel sat by the fire, silent but alert, as if guarding them for the first time. The mother felt a strange pull in her chest. It was not just fear anymore. It was something unfamiliar, dangerous, yet warm. A whisper inside her said, Maybe he truly means it. But as she closed her eyes, another voice inside warned, kindness breaks, kindness fades, when the world pushes against it. And so the storm outside passed, but inside their hearts, another storm had only begun. The storm had passed, leaving the land quiet and heavy with mist. Daniel stepped outside his small wooden house. The earth still damp beneath his boots. Inside, the alien mother sat near the fire with her daughter curled in her lap. Her sharp eyes followed every move he made, not with anger this time, but with a strange unease. The little girl stirred, whispering softly, "Mama, I am warm." She smiled faintly, hugging the blanket close. Her face looked brighter than it had in weeks. The mother's lips trembled, relief filling her chest. For a long moment, she only stared at her daughter. Then her gaze shifted back to the human who had made this possible. When Daniel returned with more wood for the fire, he placed it carefully beside the hearth. His voice was calm. "You are safe here," he said, "but they will come again. The villagers do not forgive easily." The mother's body stiffened. She knew his words were true. She had lived too long in fear not to understand danger. Her voice broke the silence. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you risk so much for us? You could have turned away. You could have left us to die." Daniel met her eyes. His voice was steady. "'Cause I know what hunger feels like. I know what it means to be alone. I will not let a child suffer when I can help." His words struck something deep inside her. She wanted to reject them, to claim it was a trick. But her daughter's smile, the warmth of the fire, the food in her belly, all of it stood as proof. Against her fears, that night, after her daughter fell asleep, the mother sat across from Daniel. The room was quiet, except for the crackle of flames. Her hands shook slightly as she spoke. "You must know the truth." Daniel looked at her closely, waiting. Her eyes darkened with old memories. "We once had a village, not far from here. My people lived in peace. We grew crops, raised children, sang songs under the stars." Her voice cracked, but one night, humans came. They told us they were allies. They shared fire and words of friendship. We believed them. We trusted. And then they betrayed us. Daniel's breath caught. The mother's words sliced through the air like a blade. "They came with weapons," she continued, her voice trembling but sharp. "They burned our homes. They hunted our men. My mate fought until the end. He died in front of me. I ran into the night with my daughter. I never stopped running." Her eyes glistened with tears, but her voice hardened. "Do you see now why I cannot trust you? Do you see why I fear every gift you bring?" Daniel's chest ached. He bowed his head, shame washing over him. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I cannot change what others did, but I am not them. I will never be them." The mother's lips trembled. Her heart screamed at her to stay silent, to hold her wall of mistrust. But another voice whispered this man's actions had never matched the cruelty she had known. He gave and gave, never asking for anything in return. Her daughter stirred in her sleep, murmuring, "Uncle." Her tiny voice filled the silence of the room. The mother's heart twisted. She brushed a hand across her child's hair, whispering, "She trusts you more than she trusts me." Daniel's voice softened, because children see truth more clearly than we do. For a long time, silence wrapped around them. Only the fire spoke, crackling softly. Finally, the mother sighed deeply. Her words were fragile. "What do you want from us? No human gives without reason. Tell me what you seek." Daniel's eyes lifted to hers, steady and clear. "Nothing," he said. "I want nothing but to see you both safe." The mother's breath caught. Her walls shook. For years, she had carried fear like armor, but now that armor felt too heavy. Her voice broke. "If I believe you, if I trust you, and you betray us, it will kill her." She pointed to her sleeping child. "Do you understand? Daniel's reply was quiet but firm. Then I will spend every day proving that I will not. Her hands tightened around her daughter, tears slipped down her cheeks. She hated herself for wanting to believe. She hated the warmth spreading through her chest. But she could not deny the truth. This human was different. The little girl opened her eyes suddenly, looking between them with sleepy joy. Mama, why? Don't we live with him? Then we won't be hungry anymore. Her innocent words pierced the silence. The mother froze, her chest squeezed painfully. Her daughter's hope burned brighter than all her doubts. She looked at Daniel, searching his face for even the smallest sign of deceit, but found only quiet determination. Her lips parted, but no words came. She could only stare, trembling, as the possibility of trust loomed before her like a cliff. Daniel's voice broke the silence, low and steady. One day, he said, I will ask you to come live with me. But not until you are ready. The fire flickered, casting shadows across their faces. The mother's heart pounded, her fear and her hope collided, and though she said nothing, in her silence there was no rejection, only hesitation. The days stretched into weeks, and the bond between Daniel, the alien mother, and her daughter grew stronger. Every morning he brought food. Every evening he left with a small gift from the childflowers, stones, or drawings scratched on bark. Slowly, the little girl's laughter filled his quiet home and the forest around it. The mother still held back. Her eyes followed him with caution. Yet something inside her had begun to soften. She no longer pulled her daughter away from him. She no longer hissed warnings when the child smiled at him. Instead, she watched silently, her heart torn between fear and trust. But outside their small circle of peace, danger grew. The villagers whispered louder now. Some said Daniel had gone mad. Others claimed he was protecting monsters. One man told the council, if we let this continue, we will all suffer. The shadow of threat loomed heavier each day. Daniel knew time was running short. He could not hide them forever. He could not keep them in the forest where cold, hunger, and villagers' hatred circled like wolves. He knew one day soon he would have to speak the words that had been building in his heart. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky red and gold, Daniel walked into the forest with his usual basket. The little girl ran to him with a laugh, clutching the wooden toy bird he had carved. Uncle, uncle, she shouted with joy. She wrapped her tiny arms around his leg. Her mother stood behind her, silent, her eyes soft but uncertain. Daniel set down the basket. He watched them both for a long moment. His chest rose and fell with the weight of unspoken words. Finally, he knelt so his eyes were level with the little girl. You should not be hiding here anymore, he said gently. You deserve warmth. You deserve safety. The girl tilted her head, her smile wide. With you, she said brightly. Her voice was innocent, filled with certainty. The mother's lips parted in shock. Her heart pounded. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Daniel turned to her slowly, his eyes steady, his voice quiet but strong. Come live with me. The words hung in the air, heavy and powerful. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The mother froze, her arms tightening around her daughter. Her mind screamed with warnings. Memories of betrayal stabbed her heart, but her daughter's eyes shone with hope. Mama, please, she whispered. We will not be hungry anymore. Tears welled in the mother's eyes. She looked at Daniel, searching his face, waiting for the hidden price, the secret demand. But she saw only truth, only the same kindness he had shown since the first day. Her lips trembled. If we go with you, they will hate you more, she whispered. They will turn against you. Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice steady. Let them hate me. I can endure that. I cannot endure seeing you suffer. The mother's chest tightened painfully. Fear fought against the warmth growing inside her. but her daughter's small hand reached for hers, tugging. "Gently, Mama," she whispered. "He is family now." The words shattered the wall she had built around her heart. Slowly, her knees gave way and she sank to the ground. Tears streaming down her face, she whispered brokenly, "All my life, I feared humans. All my life, I believed they could only destroy. And now here you are, proving me wrong." Daniel reached out slowly, his hand hovered. Waiting for her permission, at last, she placed her trembling hand in his. The moment was small, but it was everything. That night, they followed him out of the forest. The little girl skipped ahead. Humming softly, the mother walked slowly, her eyes darting nervously, but she did not turn back when they entered his home. The warmth of the fire greeted them. The mother looked around, her chest tight with unease. But her daughter clapped her hands, laughing. "Mama, it is so warm, so safe." She ran to the fire. Cuddling in the blanket Daniel laid out, the mother stood silently in the doorway. Tears slipping down her face, she whispered, "I never thought I would see this day." Daniel turned to her, his voice low but firm. "You are not alone anymore." The villagers noticed, of course. Their whispers turned into anger. Some came to Daniel's door with threats, but each time he stood firm, refusing to abandon them. His home became their shield, and slowly, a strange respect began to grow even among those who had hated. They could not deny his courage, nor the bond they saw with their own eyes. In the weeks that followed, the alien child bloomed with joy. She ran through the fields, laughing. She learned human words. She sang with Daniel in the evenings. Her mother watched with quiet wonder for the first time since her husband's death. She felt the heavy weight of fear begin to lift. Every night before sleep, the little girl whispered, "Thank you, Uncle." And every night, the mother lay awake, her heart slowly opening to a truth she had fought so long. Daniel had not saved them for a reward. He had not asked for anything. He had only given, again and again, until her walls finally broke. And so their story became more than just survival. It became proof that kindness could build bridges even where war had left ruins. It became proof that a single human's heart could change everything. As the fire burned bright, the mother whispered softly into the night, "We are home."